It started with a sound that didn't belong. At first, Emily thought it was the pipes. Again, the old building groaned like a wounded animal in the wind. But as the days passed, the sound became more distinct. A whisper, low, soft, almost indecipherable, but definitely a voice. Not just any voice, but one that seemed to call her name. She had moved into apartment 7B 3 weeks ago. It was the top floor of an abandoned tenement that had been converted into lofts. A place that was cheap enough for her to afford on her own. The first week had been uneventful. The old elevator creaked like it might collapse at any moment, and the hallway lights flickered, but that was nothing out of the ordinary. Everyone who lived here was a stranger to her. That made the whispers all the more unsettling that it began at night. Emily would wake around 3:17 a.m. every single night, with the sound of shuffling footsteps outside her bedroom door. She told herself it was just her imagination. But when she started leaving a tape recorder on the nightstand, the recordings confirmed her fears. There was a voice whispering, sometimes a single word, sometimes her full name, Emily, repeated over and over. She didn't tell anyone. She feared she'd been laughed at, accused of stress or insomnia. But she did tell her cat, Jasper, who seemed to stare at the corner of the room, ears twitching, fur bristled. And that was the first night she realized it wasn't just in her head. Jasper would hiss and swipe at the air whenever the whispering grew louder. Then came the letters. They appeared under her door at precisely 3:33 a.m. The same time the whispers were loudest. Plain white envelopes with no return address. Each one contained a single typed line: "You're late. They are watching, do you remember?" The first time she read one, her hands shook. But second time, she dropped it, and the envelope slid under her bed, where she swore it had moved by itself during the night. By the third letter, she was convinced she was not alone. Emily tried to rationalize it. Perhaps a neighbor with a warped sense of humor. But apartment 7B was at the end of a hallway that no one except her could access after midnight. And the building's surveillance cameras, supposedly recording every corridor, showed nothing unusual. No one came. No one left. It was when she noticed the shadows that she began to fear for her sanity. Not the shadows from the lamp or passing cars, but shadows that moved independently. On one side of the room, where no light touched, a dark silhouette would linger, sometimes stretching toward her bed. She tried to photograph it, but each image came out completely blank. Only her sense of dread remained. One evening, while checking the mail, she found something different. An old key, worn and blackened with age, inside a manila envelope. No note, no explanation. When she held it, a memory she didn't know she had returned. A room she had never seen. A door hidden somewhere in the apartment's walls. But the apartment didn't have hidden doors, or so she thought. The next night, at 3:33 a.m., the whispers grew frantic, almost urgent. "Emily, find it before it's too late." She followed the sound through the apartment. It led her to the laundry closet. On a hunch, she pushed against the wall and it gave way, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. The key fit perfectly in the rusted lock at the bottom. The basement room was small, bare, and smelt of decay. On the floor was a pile of old photographs, all of the apartment, taken decades ago. She recognized the hallway, her door, even her bed, but in every photo, the whispering figures were there, always at the edge of the frame, pale, indistinct, but unmistakably human in form. And each photo had someone scribbled on the back, "Next." She realized then that the whispers weren't random. They weren't malevolent. They were a warning. Someone or something was repeating a cycle that had started long before she arrived. The letters, the shadows, the whispers, they were all pointing her toward a truth she didn't yet understand. Emily spent days in the basement, combing through papers and letters, old tenant records, and diaries. The building had been the site of disappearances, stretching back over 50 years. No one ever found the missing, and every resident of apartment 7B had left abruptly, some even overnight. But the whispering always began before their disappearance, the same as it did for her. On the 7th night, she heard it clearly for the first time. Not a whisper, but a voice, deep and hollow. "Do you remember the choice you made?" Her mind went blank. She didn't know what choice. Then the shadows moved in, closing in. The photographs began to shift, forming new images, showing her own face in the frame, pale, wide-eyed, trapped. And she understood. She was the next. Desperate, Emily tried to leave, but the stairs had disappeared. The basement room had no exit except the door she had come through, which now led to her bedroom. The apartment exactly as it had been, as if nothing had happened. But the whispers persisted. Only now, she noticed. They weren't calling her name anymore. They were calling someone else's. And outside her window, in the corner of the alley, a dark figure watched, patient, silent, waiting for the next resident of 7B to hear the whispers. Emily stayed awake for days, recording everything. She posted videos online, hoping someone could stop it, but viewers dismissed them as fake, edited horror stories. She laughed bitterly. She knew better. The last entry on her recorder ends abruptly at 3:33 a.m. A whisper. "You should have run." No more sound. The apartment remains. 7B, top floor. Cheap rent, perfect location. And the building. Always quiet after midnight, until someone new moves in, because the whispers never stop. They are waiting.